That breaking news alert, music festivals and rain just don't mix. The Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival has officially been canceled for the rest of the weekend. People were leaving that area in droves trying to get out. They're reviewing the forecast. Bonnaroo organizers put out a message on social media saying canceling the remainder of the festival was, quote, the safest decision. Campsite is basically a mud pit and communication from festival organizers has been minimal.
There are people that do that, like me. I travel, work festivals full time. That is my job. As a festival bartender, I go to each event with the anticipation that I'm making money. But when you're going in with the anticipation, like, okay, I'm going to make X amount of dollars at a minimum. Yeah. Like, I'm going to make X amount of dollars. And I get shit happens, but like that hurts your pocket so bad. And like your plan for the year, because working festivals full time, again, like all of my money, I have to keep account of every dollar that I make. Everything goes up, everything gets put aside. Yeah. Besides like my bills that I have to pay, like then that's what I get through off like non-festival season with. Like that's how I survive the winter, and I save like after the fact. Even missing one weekend like completely and drastically ruins my winter my savings.
If you were personally affected by the Bonnaroo cancellation, I am with you. I really don't even know where to begin here. You should all know by now that after one day of music, Bonnaroo had to cancel their entire 4-day weekend. There's a couple of factors coming into play that will kind of shed a little bit more light as to why this year in particular might be a little bit more devastating to some than those prior. From the lineup to location to communication and short staffing, there's a lot of questions left as to what could have been done different. This year in 2025 holds some eerie parallels as to the 2021 festival year that was also canceled due to thunderstorms and weather in the area. Believe it or not, the last time I bought Bonnaroo tickets was that 2021 year that was also canceled due to the weather. It's funny, I always said I'm good, I don't need to go back. Like I went, and then 2021 was canceled. I was like, that's a sign I don't need to go. And boy, was I right, because here we are again with the same story. If you don't know, Bonnaroo is a 4-day music festival held in Manchester, Tennessee every year. Superfly Presents and AC Entertainment bought 530 acres out of the 700 acres that make up the quote-unquote farm. This was back in 2007, and now 1560 New Bushy Branch Road is a reserve site that brings in 80,000 attendees from all across the country every year. One of the things that makes Bonnaroo special is they actively try to make efforts towards sustainability, because festivals definitely have a big footprint that they leave. What I mean by that is they try to be sustainable when they can. That's solar-powered stages, making sure vendors only use compostable food items, and workshops at Planet Roo that encourage eco-consciousness within attendees at Roo. Now, with that being said, I don't believe that this was at the forefront of their minds when allowing everybody in just to cancel a day later due to the weather, because let me tell you, the videos of those festival grounds, it is left in ruins. Bonnaroo 2019 was actually the last time I was at the farm. This was my first ever camping festival, and that year was arguably the best lineup delivered to date. We know 2020 was canceled due to COVID, and then 2021 had to be pushed back to September, which, if you don't know, in this area, that is right in the heart of hurricane season, and Mother Nature delivered. That year particularly wasn't as bad because they canceled before a lot of the attendees came in. Vendors had already been setting up inside, and then the cancellation came down that year. It wasn't as big of an impact in saying that not as many people were affected, but I do know something that was familiar in both cases is I do remember in that 2021 year of people saying that same thing. They only learned that the festival was canceled through social media posts, but more on that in a little bit. So there is a benefit to having that notification just a couple days before the festival is set to start, because we're looking at travel expenses here as well. But I guess the weather signals this year, they weren't as daunting as those in that 2021 year, and so they push forward. I'd say we do have to look at some other motivating factors here. The lineup, for one. I know this year in particular held a lot of the same artists that were on that 2021 lineup. Tipper and Tyler the Creator are two that I'm particularly bummed about missing twice. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Dave never got to play at the farm at all in his whole career. And with his retirement looming, I'd say that one just stinks a little bit extra for me. I will say when it comes to the weather, I was checking it for myself, and I agree. That Friday, I think it was only set to be about like a 40 to 60% chance of rain in the afternoon with just some overcast, maybe some scattered showers on Saturday. And now Sunday was looking ominous, so there was that. But my friend Crispy actually gave me a little bit better insight into this. It wasn't as much as the storm that came on that weekend, but prior to coming to Bonnaroo the week before, they had bad weather as well.
Coming into the festival as staff, like we knew going into it, like we were under like a weather advisory. Like we knew they were like, yo, like things might not go well. And there was like very little wiggle room with the amount of rain that the area had. But the ground was already really soft. The stages had already moved. My biggest complaint is not that they canceled. I feel like they were justified.
They had to cancel.
I feel like they were justified in canceling the festival, but I also feel like they knew going into it that weather was trash and that they were already like right there on the verge of not being able to like continue the festival before the festival even started. And then just the lack of communication all the way around, not just for festival goers, for staff, for artists, for everybody that was involved in Bonnaroo, and for Bonnaroo to be the festival that it is and to have the name that it has and the reputation. Like you have the money, bro.
That's why when the rain came on Friday, it didn't take much for things to go bad quickly. And I'll say it again, 2021, that's exactly the same thing that happened. Aside from that, one reason I do find understandable as to why they may have wanted to push a little bit harder for the festival this year would be due to John Mayers. He was one of the co-founders of Bonnaroo and Superfly Presents. He actually had passed away literally just days before the festival was set to begin, and he was only 51 years old. They did make an announcement about how they wanted to do a nice memorial service for him at the farm as well during the event. So I'm sure this was also on their minds as they were making the decision as to whether or not they should even let attendees on site to begin with. And certainly still affecting the owners as they deal with the loss now of the festival as well as the assured backlash. And so I was a single day ticket holder. I saw that Friday schedule and I said, fuck it. Clutch tickets as soon as they went on sale. And so our plan was to drive to my friend's house in Atlanta on Thursday night, which we did, about 5.5 hour drive there, and then drive the rest of the 3 hours to Tennessee on Friday morning and be there just in time for Slightly Stupid, which we ended up actually being because we decided to just play video games until 5 a.m. for some reason.
That drawing is fucking crazy. Fucking drew that, you? Alex, Guy, did you draw that?
I didn't draw that shit. That's so funny.
I drew it.
It's amazing. What the fuck?
I don't know why we did that. So we ended up getting on the road kind of late on Friday. I also spaced on buying a car pass, which was so annoying because I bought those tickets as soon as they went on sale. I thought it was all good. And then I realized I needed to get a car pass, so I still had to go to will call. So to paint a picture as to where I was while all of this was happening, as soon as you get there right off the interstate, there's another road that you would turn onto that would pretty much just take you straight to the farm. We arrived right at around 2:30, 3 p.m. and it's probably been an hour since they announced that it was quote unquote delayed. At least that's what we were told. So they put cones in front of the road, completely blocking it. So where do? There's about 3 gas stations, a Circle K, I think maybe like a Speedway and a BP, and these places were jam-packed. Cars all over the sides of the road. We ended up at the BP, pulled in, got our spot, and little did we know, we were about to settle in for the next 5 hours. I did get a nap in, but I think this is where a lot of the frustration started to come to the surface, as in that 5-hour time span, there was no updates from the festival, no communication. Nobody had any clue what was going on. We just could refresh our social medias and like maybe sometimes get a post from what's actually going on in the campgrounds. Not gonna lie, the campgrounds did look like a lot of fun, with mud wrestling taking the stage, which seemed like a good time for everybody except for this guy.
No choking.
Towards the last hour and a half, we did notice a decent amount of cars coming up the road from Bonnaroo. Unbeknownst to us, campers were in fact being evacuated and starting to exit. But my thought is, if you are evacuating leading up to a likely cancellation, I feel like this should have at least been announced sooner or communicated differently, especially because it wasn't just campers inside the festival. Like me, there was hundreds of us left in limbo outside of the farm, not sure if we should wait it out or go ahead and start making different accommodations for the night. Now, I personally had no problem waiting out the delay. I was determined to see glass animals somehow. And also, I know this sounds dumb, but Festival was hiding wristbands to Halloween during Tape B's set. And I swear I had this foolproof plan where I was going to have my friend call me that was outside of the park and let me know what the hints were, because I definitely wasn't going to have service. I don't know, in my head, I was going to make it my mission to find the golden owl, because then at least all of the waiting would have been worth it and not a bad takeaway with just a single day wristband. Because again, remember, even at the gas station, there was a huge issue of service. We didn't even have it there either. Then it was about 7:45 when I got the call.
Weather Service provided us with an updated forecast with significant and steady precipitation that will produce deteriorating camping and egress conditions in the coming days. We are beyond gutted, but we must make the safest decision and cancel the remainder of Bonnaroo.
At this point, like many other tip and dippers, we were pretty burnt. Without hesitation, we just got right back on the interstate and went to Georgia. Fortunately, some artists were able to book gigs in Nashville, and so that's where a lot of the single day and weekend ticket holders were able to go post up for the night. The most notable stack I saw was this Tape B of the Trees detox unit combo. This is also where I want to say that running a little bit late was actually a blessing in disguise, because we were able to get right back on the interstate. No traffic, no waiting. It was amazing, especially after, of course, the day that we had. Back inside, Bonnaroo was kept partially open, with food vendors servicing those that were taking shelter for the night. And again, it looked like they had a lot of fun. John Summit did a back-to-back with Levity over in the RVs. From what I saw, he actually live streamed it, which doesn't really benefit anyone in the area, but it was still nice that he was able to make this happen. About 300 people were able to show up. They kept it super hush-hush because, again, that alone would have drawn a huge crowd, and we'll be back to the issues of safety. So essentially, if your campsite wasn't completely underwater, that night of Friday the 13th wasn't completely chalk. Vibes were kept alive as renegades popped up all over the campgrounds, and I even saw some attendees reporting that that Friday night was their most favorite night of Bonnaroo ever. On the flip side, I will say if you were wanting or needing to leave post-cancellation, all I can say is they weren't as lucky. Other attendees reported the feeling of being ghosted by Bonnaroo, because once that official cancellation notice came down, they were gone. The volunteers gone, workers gone, the people that are out there trying to direct you, tell you which way to go. Apparently there was none of that, so it just became a free-for-all, good luck, see you later type situation. I mean, seriously, this is Bonnaroo we are talking about. One would think that after being around for over a decade, you've already dealt with this kind of cancellation weather issue before, that some kind of changes would take place. Let's get better drainage for the farm, not some random infinity stage with a terrible sound system and nowhere to move, because look what happened. You use it for a day that I haven't seen one good review about. And me personally, I was originally relatively unfazed by the whole situation, to be honest. My journey was, again, a 6-hour drive to Atlanta, 3-hour drive to Tennessee. repeat in reverse for the drive home. Had to sit in the parking lot for a couple hours, yeah, but we were back on the road again, no problem, right when we did get notified. Expenses were food, gas. Make no mistake, that shit ain't cheap. I know that I'm one of the lucky ones. Now, with that being said, I took that other audio roughly about 4 hours before making this video. Let me tell you, as I have been diving deeper into this, reading everyone's personal accounts and experiences of what happened, the more I feel my blood pressure going up. It was actually this Reddit post that triggered me.
So did you hear them announce at like early at 2 o'clock, like that it was canceled?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like inside the festival grounds.
Inside
because we were all still in there, like with the anticipation that we were working the event, like, and it was going to continue. And then they're like, oh, like you can go back to your campsites, like, or whatever, like when everything's going on.
Yeah.
But like we were all just kind of like hanging out, like just waiting to see what was gonna happen.
So you're telling me that they knew it was going to be canceled 5 hours before it was announced? I totally get not wanting to have this huge flood of people exiting all at one time. But let's be honest, y'all could have radioed Manchester PD and at least told all of us that we're just sitting outside the park in our cars that we could leave. Why did we even show up to begin with? I'm talking everyone. I am so mad for y'all. The thousands of y'all that got absolutely cooked by the campgrounds. Cars probably still stuck in the mud. PTO days burned. Money gone with your tent in the wind. And then to top it all off, the only way to make it better was to full send it to Nashville and burn a couple $100s more. Now let's just pull back for a second. Let's just say that it didn't rain, that the festival was able to happen. Some of these posts really did make me pause further and ask the question of what is really going on behind the scenes of Bonnaroo. Like this video if you were hit by a golf cart at Bonnaroo, because what am I reading? Bear in mind, I am taking everything with a grain of salt here, but it does beg the question, if this is happening, then why? Multiple reports of understaffing, especially in the medic tent, were really concerning. We're talking 20 to 30 minutes for someone that has collapsed just to get some assistance. Should these stories be true, then it would make sense that these golf carts are out here driving Mario Kart style because there's nobody to work. They have to shuttle each other across Bonnaroo. I could be exaggerating. Again, I wasn't there. Were you? Drop a comment below if you were, and please let me know your side. Do you share the same sentiment, or are you gonna buy that Bonnaroo ticket for next year anyways? I am certainly just one small lens, and my opinion doesn't really matter anyways. And let's be honest, these things happen sometimes. Cancellation or not, there would have been something to be complained about, whilst others would still be boasting that it's the best weekend of their lives. Take to the internet to complain, and then go secure tickets for the following year with the next click. So why should anything change, right? We'll have to see after this year, because this was pretty bad. Will loyalty prevail where trust has been broken? Only time will tell. At least we're getting refunded for tickets, right? And oh, I almost forgot. On our way home from Bonnaroo, it was probably like an hour outside of Atlanta on our way back to Florida, pumping gas at this gas station, and this little guy crawled out of the bushes. He was crying for food. We ended up rescuing him. This was our beautiful takeaway from Bonnaroo. Even though the weekend wasn't what we expected, I'm so happy we got this little guy out of it, and you know we had to name him Rue. Also, Rue said he would super duper appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button.